greensandmachines.com.
Now, I don't consider myself an expert on computers. I feel like my interest in them peaked in 7th grade when I was the first kid on my block to have a computer with Windows Vista. You know, back when
You have a whole gigabyte of RAM?
and
You have 2 gigabytes of RAM?
then
Dual cores? So it's like 2 processors in one? Phew, I bet RuneScape runs like a champ on that thing. You'd be PKing all the noobs.
my brother had the last laugh though when that computer died after 5 years, and his older Windows XP system still runs to this day, and with the help of some extra RAM I found in the dumpster, actually boots up faster than this laptop I've been using since the start of college. Now, I always told myself that once I graduated, I'd build my own PC, because that seemed like one of those coming-of-age experiences for anyone tech-minded, to build their own computer. But I kept putting it off because, you know, the laptop was still working good, and why upgrade when there's no need to? Well, a few years have gone by, and I've been noticing some signs of age. Namely, I'm tired of it not being able to find my computer, and the graphics card has been known to die at random. Well, it's a good thing I put it off this long, because actually, one of my friends who's more tech-minded than I recently upgraded his gaming rig and was going to get rid of his old motherboard, RAM, and CPU. And I'm like, I'll take it! So he was willing to contribute them to my build. Sure, it's about 5 years old, but still, it's much better than what I got in here. Now, I'd never built a computer before, and at first I was hell-bent on building the case myself out of sheet metal. But I only got as far as drilling and tapping the standoff holes in a microwave housing before I realized this wasn't going to be big enough. And furthermore, this is one of those items that just begs to be bought, not built. So I scrapped the idea of building the case and just went ahead and bought a case. Now, I wasn't keen enough to know that this motherboard could go in a smaller case than the one I bought because I read it said ATX. So hey, I'm gonna get the case that says full ATX, only to realize that full ATX means you can fit motherboards bigger than ATX. So if I ever need to upgrade to 8 disk drives, I got room for that. The hard drive that I described in a previous video was the Samsung Evo solid state 1TB that was on sale for about $100. The other hard drive actually, I bought at a rummage sale for $5. It's a Western Digital 1TB mechanical drive, but that's still a pretty good deal. That thing was brand new. For the power supply and the CPU cooler, I went down to Fry's Electronics and picked out whatever looked the best, which was kind of a depressing experience because that was months before they went out of business and 2/3 of the store was roped off and empty. But nonetheless, I found what I needed. Now, I ran into some trouble when applying the thermal paste on the new CPU. Firstly, my friend told me to use some alcohol to remove all the old thermal paste. So I'm like, hey, I've got a bottle of alcohol lying around from when I got stitches last year. I'll just use that. Not realizing this is hydrogen peroxide, which is about 95% water, whereas alcohol is somewhere between 80% alcohol and less than 10% water or something. So I cleaned off the thermal paste not realizing this, and when I found out I was like, oh my gosh. It gave me memories of when my friend dumpstered over a laptop and I told him to clean underneath the keyboard with Simple Green, and after that it didn't work. But I was lucky enough that nothing short-circuited. The next problem I had with the thermal paste was I didn't know how much to put on. The CPU cooler came with this little single-serve packet like the icing that comes with frozen toaster strudels, so I thought I was supposed to use the whole thing. I ended up getting thermal paste spilled everywhere, and some of it even got under the CPU socket. So I was like, you know what, I need to clean that out. So I took off the CPU cooler, took off the processor, only to notice there were some bent pins in the socket, which I didn't notice earlier, but probably wouldn't have noticed if I didn't put too much thermal paste. So I carefully bent them back with a knife and put everything back together, put the right pea-sized droplet of thermal paste on, and it worked. So I'm pretty proud of that. Other than that, everything went pretty well. The only other thing I had to make was the I/O baffle, because my friend broke it when he took it out of his old system. So I just marked all the hole locations and cut it out with some sheet metal and hot glued it on because I didn't want to bend it really fancily like they actually come. because that would be way too hard. So I put that on, and the next thing was the monitor. And interestingly enough, I found this TV on the side of the street on trash day, but I was like, you know what, I don't want to commit to taking this TV if I don't know if it works. So what I did was I took my inverter and my PlayStation out, plugged it in, played a few rounds of PS1 on Crash Team Racing, which the battery didn't even last long enough to finish 5 laps, but I had my proof that it worked. The only thing was the TV was back mounted on this stand thing, and I needed it on a table mount, but it didn't come with one. Fortunately, they left the bracket for mounting the table mount, so all I had to do was just find a big slab of steel and drill some holes in it and put some screws in it. So that's what I did. Now this size monitor is probably way overkill for the viewing distance I have, but I think I'm getting used to it. It's really nice. So the new computer works like a champ. I can now render videos in 10 minutes instead of 3 hours. Yeah, this laptop and I have been through hell and back, and by hell I mean engineering school, so I'm not surprised at its lackluster performance. I also found another computer that was going to be thrown out while searching for parts for this thing, and I was originally going to put the graphics card in there, but it was an older graphics card, so when I upgraded it, it actually slowed down the performance of this computer, so I decided to take it out. That computer will be the subject of next video when I convert it from a desktop into a laptop, so that's a really fun project. Anyways, that's all for this video. New computer in action.